Good afternoon, everybody. It's a bit embarrassing walking up and having people clap you, but anyway, hi, I'm Marc Zander. I'm the Chief Client Officer at Teads, and delighted to be with you here today. Just a little bit of background on who's standing on stage and what I do. So I never had any intention to move into the world of ad tech. My first 25 years in my career were in FMCG marketing, working for clients like Kimberly-Clark and Nestle, etc. And then I moved into the world of media, and I ran the global media business for Mars Chocolate for 7-8 years. And then I made what some people thought was a bit of a strange move, and I went from a $40 billion company spending billions of dollars in advertising to a $200 million company called Teads. And 9 years later, I'm there. It's been a fantastic ride. We've grown the business from about 200 million to about 1.5 billion. And I'm loving every minute of it. And we work with some fantastic partners, one of whom are Heineken, who are here today to talk to you a little bit about CTV. Now, just before I start, who in the room has heard of Heineken? Good. Who in the room has heard about Teads? Okay, not bad. That's 50%. And certainly if I'd done this 9 years ago, it would have been 2, I think. So I'm going to spend about 3 or 4 minutes just quickly explaining who Teads are, so you know what we're doing on stage, and then much more importantly, we'll bring Heineken on to join us. So Teads is an advertising platform, an end-to-end advertising platform that is truly full funnel. So we do branding, we do consideration, and we do conversion. And if you go back to the history of where Teads started about 20 years ago, and at the time I was working for Mars in the media role, as quality publishers, so any magazine, any journal, any newspaper, moved from static, or from the classic physical into the digital world. In a physical world, as they do today, it was static display advertising. And as they moved into the digital world, it seems amazing now, but it was also static display advertising. And what a guy did at Teads way before I joined was write the code to turn those spaces that were static display into video inventory, which was really interesting from a publisher perspective, because they went from a place where they had lots of inventory that big brands weren't particularly interested in because it was static display. And from a brand perspective, it was very interesting because suddenly there was an alternative in the world of digital to the likes of YouTube and the likes of Facebook at the time. So it was providing a quality inventory solution. We work with every single publisher pretty much in every single market in the world apart from China. So we have massive global reach. If you think about from a consumer perspective, if you've actively chosen to read an article about football, about fashion, about sport, about music, about anything, it's a lean-in experience. It's a slow scroll because you read slowly. On social media, you skim, but here you read slowly, and therefore we are a high-attention, slow scroll, low-frequency kind of platform, and therefore we're great for branding and consideration. In the last few years, we've expanded into a couple of different areas. One is lower funnel. So we now truly do full funnel. We merged with a company called Outbrain about 12 months ago, and so are the only player outside of the walled gardens to be able to do true full funnel. And we've also gone into CTV, both HomeScreen, which is what we're going to talk about today, and also into in-stream. And CTV plays an important role within the media mix, because if you think about when people are consuming media during the course of the day, it'll be appearing at certain times, where at other times people will be on mobile, on tablets, on desktop. So it's a real way of following consumers through their journey through a day, and that's one of the really interesting things strategically about the role of CTV. And therefore, we're able to now sequence and retarget people across screens from their living room and serve sequential advertising as they move through their journey throughout the day, be that in-home or out of home, through what we call our Teads omnichannel household graph. We're very big into measurement, and we were the first company to test the impact of CTV HomeScreen on attention. And the reason why CTV HomeScreen is really interesting to brands is it's the first ad that you see when you turn your TV on, a smart TV on, and it may be, depending on the consumer journey, the only ad that you ever see. And it drives very high levels of attention, very high levels of awareness, and really positive ad experience. So a lot of big brands and a lot of our big partners like Heineken are really interested in it. And we're starting to use CTV HomeScreen for other things as well. So as we see the rise of influencer content and social content as well, we're using both the mobile and the CTV HomeScreen to connect some of the most popular of the bits of the content in a new user experience as well. we're passionate about outcomes, and therefore whether it's on branding, whether it's on MMM, whether it's on ROAS, or now on performance, Teads has built up a reputation for delivering really strong outcomes. And as a result of which, we partner with many of the world's top brands. So this isn't a cred sheet. This is the 50-odd big global advertisers who've chosen to partner with this relatively small company called Teads as one of their 5 or 6 strategic partners across the globe. And obviously in the top right-hand corner, or left, depending which way we're looking, is our partner Heineken. And the way that we approach working with our partners is very, very simple. It's rooted in responsible advertising. The ambition and what I've been trying to drive through the business over the last 9 years is 2 behaviors, really. One is we have to make it better, because otherwise, why would they want to work with us? But also, we have to make it easier, because when I was working on the client side, my biggest problem wasn't really money, but it was time. And certainly whether you work client side or agency side, et cetera, there are so many pressures on people's times now that we've got to make it better and easier to deliver the best possible outcomes, rooted in effective media solutions, exceptional creative, smart use of data, and measurement that matters. And you'll see all of those elements in what we're going to discuss today with our Heineken team. So that's more than enough about Teads. What I'd like to do now is bring on stage Juliana, who is the global media lead at Heineken, and also Sophie Evans, who is our global creative strategy director and basically does all the work. So. Oops. So first of all, Juliana, thank you very much for coming all the way from Amsterdam.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. And before we go into CTV specifically, I'd like to maybe just take a bit of a step back. And if you could talk a little bit about, at Heineken, what your approach to testing and learning and your global learning agenda is.
Yes. Hello, everyone. First, super happy to be here, and thanks, Teads, for inviting me. So I think the best way to start answering this question is that Heineken takes test and learn very seriously. So we've really grown the importance of our global learning agenda in the last few years. So the way we do, every year we agree, and with senior leadership and also with our markets, what we are going to learn. So we pick the most relevant topics, and we see what is going to drive growth to our brands, and we stick to it. So by doing like this, we can really guarantee that multiple markets are testing the same thing. And really what we want as an output is best practices, right? So we test, we prove, and then we embed in everything that we do. And we create a certain engine of creating more impact for our brands. And all of this, of course, is attached to our global strategy as a brand. So sharing, in a nutshell, what I can share, the pillars that we base our strategy. So first is growth. We are talking about a beer company, right? So it's really about penetration, it's about mental availability. So we need to win this battle literally every day. The second pillar is productivity. So we need to make every euro count more and more for everything that we do. And the third one, last but not least, it's future fit. So how can we be prepared for the future? So when you guys came with the CTV HomeScreen opportunity, we were like, okay, it kind of checks all the boxes that we have going back to our strategy, right? So let's explore on our global learning agenda.
Fantastic. And Sophie, so when you started the discussion with Heineken on that, tell me a little bit about how that discussion went and how we were supporting them from a test and learn perspective.
Well, creatively, of course, we've got a really long-standing JBP with Heineken, and creative is the cornerstone, really, of that partnership. What we're doing, how we're servicing Heineken creatively, is we're optimizing their creative before it goes live on our platforms. As Marc has already mentioned, we have a very high attention environment in the mobile environment, but also, again, in CTV, very high attention. Our job and how we service Heineken is to optimize those creatives to get the most out of their impact when they hit the screen. So you can see here, we've got a few examples of experiences where we've taken a hero asset, which is already beautifully crafted by Heineken, and we've tweaked things like responsive elements, whether it be like a tap-to-play experience for the first one where Joe Jonas is actually tapping the screen and the audience can interact with it. Or we're using motion in the middle one, where we have a loop of motion, which is tapping into an audience's inherent instinct to look where there is motion, so capturing their attention, which also then converts into outcomes for the brand. And then scrolling function as well, so using the user's actual scroll in mobile to create a playfulness about the ad, which again anchors a greater memory for the ads that they've seen. And we do this because it definitely delivers better outcomes. And when we do it with Heineken and with all of our partners, actually, we do it in a very collaborative fashion. So we host workshops. We call them ateliers, which is just French for workshop. We're a French company. And we bring the client, the brand teams, the media teams as well. And in one very productive, fun session, we create these formats that are fit for purpose when they go live. It's about being fast, efficient, and fun. And it works.
So at Teads, we're passionate about creative, but what about at Heineken?
We are as well, and I think this is definitely like a shared value that we have, right? Like we need to take creativity very seriously, and I think this is essential for like a growing and a successful partnership, right? So if we're not getting the creatives right, we are probably not delivering results, and then we don't have a good partnership. So I think now we run more than 20 ateliers, I would say, last year with you guys. So we really try to do it for every campaign that we have.
Yeah. And I think, the CTV part of this, where it came from last year, was a fairly new canvas for Teads in the last couple of years, and we'd started introducing CTV into the ateliers, and Heineken were very rightly questioning what works. And since we have a strong heritage in mobile, but CTV was fairly new, we didn't have all the answers, and that's how we came to decide that it would become part of your test and learn agenda for 2025.
Yeah. And if I can add to that, like from a personal perspective, I would say the ateliers really help me to navigate internally. So when we have data, we don't have arguments to fight the data, right? So to put a global campaign up, you have so many stakeholders, right? Creative agencies, PR agencies, media teams, brand teams, everyone have an opinion. And sometimes you don't have the focus or the money or, to really do fit-to-platform creatives and to optimize. So the way you guys run the ateliers, you really give us the data, the facts, and you help us to execute as well. So this creates a lot of nice conversations internally on what is the right way to go as well. So
fantastic.
Quite nice.
So how did the journey with CTV HomeScreen start? We talked to you about the opportunity. What happened next?
Yeah, just maybe giving a step back on where we are now and how we got there. So yeah, CTV, it's already delivering massive reach, right? And we started our CTV journey also as part of the learning agenda. And then when we proved everything that we had to prove around CTV, and we already have, and probably most of you guys as well, as a business as usual touch point for most of the campaigns we run, we were like, what's next? We want to explore, and I think Heineken Teads, we have this pioneering innovative DNA, so we're always looking for new stuff to test. And when you guys brought the CTV HomeScreen, we were like, okay, this is a good way, definitely, for us to go. So the first step was really to make a multi-market test to see if the format was delivering against our brand goals. And what we saw is that definitely it was in multiple markets. So we saw 2.3 times higher ad awareness versus the brand norms. So I would say this was the first check that we did on our list. It's working, and then we can already embed to our planning. So this was also the moment that we decided as a partner and also internally that we should be having home screen in all the ateliers and as part of our plans.
Fantastic. So what happens after this? Step one, tick. What happens next, Sophie?
So obviously for us, it's about making sure that we're consistently proving our hypothesis and feeding back into that global learning agenda loop that we talked about. So yes, we're doing it in every atelier, but we're also then adding in the measurement of the campaigns when they go live. So in this particular case that you can see on screen now, for Desperados last year, We ran a multi-channel, omni-channel approach, so using CTV screens as well as the mobile, and we had this creatively consistent approach across the different screens. And our goal with this campaign was really to lean into a Gen Z audience, so CTV really ticks that box. But in terms of the creative approach, there's a hook in the music that was really like the really strong beat. So all of our optimizations were about bringing that beat to life. So you can see, I think they've already played the actual piece here, but the actual in-stream piece is actually like beating along with the music itself. And all the way through, there's motion that's really being kind of brought to life, which is kind of matching to the beat of the music. So it was very strong, this one, and we're consistently seeing this, big uplifts, and it's really proving that that omni-channel approach is better than the single channel or working in silos.
Yeah, and to build on that, so you guys saw that we got great results, right? But at this point, we had like generic creatives, I would say. And then also sitting together with the team, again, we were like, okay, what's next? And then we started to craft different creative tests to dig into the format a little bit more. So what you can see on the screen was the next step of our test. So we tested, for example, the length of the asset, so what works better. And then we tested what is the best full screen versus splitting the screen, half display and half video. And the last one, we tested display animated versus not animated, so static. So was also a next step. Our goal was really to build a playbook, guidelines, where you name it, but really to have it clear how we should be dealing with the format moving forward and really to scale that.
And what did we learn?
We learned a lot.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say thank you to Heineken for actually sharing their learnings, because this will also help so many others who are using this space. So we know already, as Marc's mentioned, that the home screen has very generous attention. It's also very impactful. It's the first thing that you see when you come to the screen. What we didn't know is what is the right length and what is the right layout and all these different tactics that we were so confident in mobile. We didn't have the answer straight away. But what we learned in this study, thanks to Heineken, is that actually a longer video, so 6 seconds, was always beaten by a 10 or a 15 or longer. So a longer video is absolutely right here. So you can use this space to deliver storytelling messages and really kind of do something that's a little bit more engaged than just something that's product focused. We also learned that when you use the full width of the home screen, rather than trying to do a split screen where you have a video on one side and a static on the other, which is a common practice, because, of course, this is a space that we're not designing for inherently. So if you use a split screen, it wasn't working as well on most metrics as the full screen. However, we did learn that there were certain instances where the split screen was very, very powerful, and it was specifically on message association. So if you're delivering a message that is something that you're measuring against, if you've got a sponsorship message, for instance, or a new positioning, then the split screen can be your friend. But there are really hard rules about how to do it, because a split screen can be tempting to say an awful lot and show an awful lot. It needs to be radically simple. And by radically simple, it's about using brand colors, logo, font, and really not a lot more. So really stripping it back. When you start introducing people and place into this, it will take away from the video that they're watching and confuse the audience, be seen as cluttered, and ultimately it will not deliver the outcomes that you're looking for. So really, really clear rules there on that split screen. And then another final thing that we learned was actually really interesting, and I think this is something that Heineken found particularly interesting too. So in mobile, we see motion as the secret ingredient for capturing and keeping attention. And our hypothesis would be that if we use the same approach in CTV, so animating a static, it would capture more attention. And yes, we were correct, it did capture slightly more attention. However, the static key visual did better on every brand metric that we were measuring. And when we dug into this, we realized it's because the way that we were animating, we were taking attention away from the brand elements and the attention was focused on the people and the center of the screen rather than the logo or the message. So if you're going to use motion, then it needs to be leveraged into the right, direct it in the right places for your goals.
And what did you find? Did you find anything surprising from these learnings?
I did, and actually what Sophie just mentioned about static being more powerful than the animated format was the one that was like, okay, it proved me wrong. And I think this is also something that I really like about the learning agenda, to be proven wrong, right? So it's always like an aha moment when this happens. Yeah, I think this was the main one. There is another one, which was not a big surprise, I would say, but something that also helped me to navigate and to kind of build this capability internally at Heineken, was the long formats really working better than the short ones. I think it's not a surprise, right, because we were talking about big screen, so it's expected that it works better. But I feel that as an industry in the last few years, we're so obsessed with short formats, and a lot of people still have this belief and this focus on their minds. So I think this also, it's one more proof to help us to balance a little bit more what we are doing, right? We see that long formats, they are the ones that are building brands in the long term for us. So yeah, it was one more piece of data that we can use to balance short and long format as well.
Great. And at the start, you talked about, the role of the Centre of Excellence at Heineken to build learnings. But when you get them, what happens next? How do you then share that through markets?
Yeah, so this is quite important, actually. And it's a big challenge that we have internally. Numbers looks really nice on the PowerPoint and learnings as well, but learnings on the PowerPoint are not selling any more beer, right? So we really need to execute. So execution is the only thing that the consumer sees. So we really now created like a process to deploy all of this and make sure our markets are implementing. So first, it's simple as sharing the information with key stakeholders. So we package up, we share, we make sure that our agencies internally, everyone have the information. Second, we need to make clear that this is a best practice, right? So if you just share a learning, you can see it's on someone's desk, but if you make it official, this is the way we do CTV HomeScreen now. So this is what we did. I think we have tons of proof that this is the right way of going, and everyone needs to do it like that. And the third piece is tracking, right? So I don't like at Global to be the police to see if the markets are doing the right stuff, but it's super important to track and to see if we have any places that we can do it better, or to see if everyone is implementing.
Fantastic. And Sophie, from your side, the sort of golden rules, the do's and the don'ts from a creative perspective?
Well, I think the first one is we have generous level of attention, so pacing, not rushing, is really, really important. I've mentioned this already, but you're in somebody's home, so let's not clutter. Let's be respectful and have clean advertising experiences. And it's you want three things, didn't you?
Two will do.
Two will do.
What about the don'ts? What about the don'ts?
But I also just say about that consistency piece as well is important. And just to add to what Juliana just said about making sure that we're taking these learning forward. Well, Heineken already are. We've already seen since then we've been implementing these learnings into local ateliers as well and seeing really strong results, especially on that message association piece. The campaign in Germany for 0.0, for instance, it would have been tempting for us to use a key visual which would have had people in a bottle in that split screen, but we went for that radically simple tactic and saw a really, really strong uplift in message association there.
So at the start, we saw the benefit of omni-channel versus just one channel. Mm-hmm. We saw that CTV HomeScreen works really well, but works better when you merge it together. What about frequency? What about sequencing? When should you start with CTV? When should you start with mobile? What are you doing in that area?
Yeah, so we also tested how to do that. What we learned is that every way you sequence, it's better than doing isolated touch point. So we saw much better results, especially on message association, which is also expected. So if you do separately, ad awareness goes up. If you do together, you can move both metrics. So this is also proved and also implemented as a best practice at Heineken right now.
Fantastic. So HomeScreen is great, but what are some of the challenges that you find in terms of, because there are obviously lots of different kinds of manufacturers who do home screen.
Yes, that's why we have you guys.
Good answer.
Yeah, and we didn't rehearse that, by the way. Yeah, it's quite challenging, right? Especially when we are talking about a lot of local players. So I'm Brazilian, I come from there, and like the biggest CTV player in Brazil, it's a local player. So how can we make sure that we are tapping into all the opportunities, that we are having consistent learnings around everywhere? So I would say the best way to do that is to pick a partner that you trust and really stick to it. It's someone that can help you to scale your CTV activation across multiple partners.
And from a creative perspective?
Well, I think we've kind of cracked it with Heineken in this kind of above market level creative workshops and ateliers, where we sign off at a global level how that campaign is going to look across the different screens, and then our team are responsible for doing that heavy lifting of tweaking towards the different specs that are required in different markets, and that way we can maintain the integrity of the global asset, uphold the best practices, and be locally in tune.
Great, thanks. And as we start to wrap up and looking forward, Juliana, where next? What are you, under your test and learn agenda, what's next on the plan?
Yes, there's always a new shiny toy, right, for us to test, which is great. So in the next few months, we're going to be looking into some different types of creative. So for example, the 3D type of creative is something that we are exploring. Also, the new formats that you guys are launching, like the pause screen. So there's a lot to tap into new formats. Other thing that we are keen to explore as well. So as I mentioned, we know that the format works for upper funnel, mid funnel, but we also see some indication as well that if you do with a very strong creative narrative, strong creatives, and a seamless consumer journey, it can also work for lower funnel type of activities. So we already see some promising results. So we are keen to explore as well on this angle.
Fantastic. And then final question to you both. If you could give one piece of advice to the audience from a home screen perspective, what would it be?
I would say try to not repurpose your creatives, right? So I think it's always easier to get your creatives from TV or from YouTube and to adapt for home screen, for example. And we just proved it here that is not the right way of doing it. So if you really want to get results from what you're doing, don't repurpose, think fit to platform, because home screen is not like a cheap format. Let's put it like that. So if you don't put the right creative in there, it's not going to be something that is going to be beneficial for your plan. So you really need to make it work, and then definitely you're going to see it in a different way as an effective and efficient format, because it's going to be driving the metrics that you want. So think about the creative, and the format is very generous. So I'm sure it's going to give some results back for your guys' brands.
It is. And I would add to that, to leave assumptions at the door. Evidence is important, especially for these new environments. Let's test theories. Let's prove things that work and learn from them. And let's be wrong. It was good to be wrong about things should be short and animation and things like that. So leave your assumptions at the door and get your proof.
Fantastic. So I flew in from France today, you flew in from Amsterdam. We didn't rehearse it, but we've got 24 seconds left, so it's pretty on point.
We're on time.
We unfortunately don't have time for questions, but we'll be hanging around, so if anyone's got any questions on either what Heineken's approach or what we're doing to support partners, please feel free to grab us. Thank you for your time, thank you for coming along, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.